Hello and welcome to another episode of Mysteries with a History. Well, I'll take you on the wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. It's been a very stressful 30 minutes because my Wi-Fi went out like really bad. I had to call them, and they're like, "Oh, you have a severe power outage. It won't be back until 7 o'clock." And I'm like, well, okay. So I just got off the phone with Jimmy and I'm like, Jimmy, we're going to have to postpone the show. So I'm on the phone with him and he's like, all right, I'm going to go to the store. And then I look at my laptop and I'm like, I'm online. Let's do the show right now. Let's do the show right now. After I told him it would be postponed. So he's a real trooper. He's being very flexible with me and getting the show done today because today is a Christmas special. So we thought we would cover UFO sightings and encounters that happened in the month of December. To my surprise, there are not a lot of December cases, and that could mean one of two things. Either people are not going out and looking into the skies because it's such a cold time of the year and it gets dark super early, or the UFOs are also on holiday leave. So before we cover all these cases, let me bring in my extra special co-host, Mr. Jimmy Church from Fade to Black. Happy holidays!
Man, we made it. Oh, that was crazy. So, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays, all of that fun stuff. And yes, a few minutes ago, I'm doing my thing, gearing up. I've coffee and settling. And Cristina calls, and I picked up. I was expecting your call. I got no internet, man. I was like, don't panic. Okay, let's figure this out. So, and this was the crazy part, though. She goes, let's just postpone this till tomorrow. I said, Christmas Eve? She goes, tomorrow's Christmas Eve? Yes. And I said, hey, let's spend Christmas Eve together then. Not that big of a deal. I can go and get the rest of my holiday shopping done, which I was going to do after today's broadcast. Cristina, it's all good. It's all fine. And then we were actually Christmas shopping together. And for my daughter Nicole, do you think she'll like this? Well, yeah, okay. And then she goes, "Oh, my internet's back.
Let's do this." And you
Let's
know what? I'm in such a good mood. I'm in such a good mood that I'm going to share with you and with everyone listening my extra special secret recipe to my hot chocolate. Do you want to hear the recipe?
Hold it now.
Oh yeah, it's super ultra secret that I
Okay.
made by accident. And
Okay.
it's the best recipe you will ever get your hands on that you will
Ever.
not find online.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
So the secret recipe is, first, you got to add love. And then, but the other main, that's not the secret ingredient because we all know that's a really important ingredient. But the real thing is,
yeah.
you got to use the Nestle rich hot chocolate powder obviously,
Mhm.
because the regular one is just okay. It's got to be the rich one.
Just okay. Rich
All
is
right.
good.
Then you got to add a little bit of cinnamon, right? Get the little Latin blood going for you, which
Okay.
is, not a super secret recipe. The secret ingredient is 2 spoonfuls of vanilla ice cream. That's the secret ingredient.
Hold it now. Yeah, that's a
Oh,
secret
yeah.
ingredient. Okay.
It's
Well
really
done.
bomb.
Okay, so this is what I do. First off, whatever, there's all kinds of hot chocolate mixes out there. Whatever it is, if it says water, I throw that no water added. It's no, I go
No.
pure. I go pure dairy. But so this is what I do. This is my little. I love yours though. And okay, there is, if you go to the market, you can find Hershey's syrup, but then there is Hershey's special dark syrup. Okay, you get that in
Okay.
the squeezed, right? Hershey's dark chocolate syrup, special dark. Oh my. That's one of the game changers. So I in the bottom of a cup, I heat up about that much milk in the bottom. That's it. That much.
Okay.
With the Hershey's, so you heat up the milk and then you squirt in like a half a bottle. You got to go for it. Hershey's dark syrup. Stir that up, and now you've got, it's a dark, thick bottom base right there. That's actually good right there. You can just shot it and just do the whole thing all at once. But then I take that and fill that with coffee. Yeah. And that's what it, man. So one of I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to throw them under the bus. One of the companies that I work for. Look at this. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is an electric. You see, it just turned off. This is an Ember smart mug.
Ooh.
See the charging base on the bottom, and then it gives you your temperature. It tells you what's going on. It says, it's so Black Mirror. Hello, it says so that's what I'm using today, and it has my secret hot chocolate mix.
I mean, so a while back, before we start with today's show, because it's Christmas, we're meant to just have fun today. So you told me a while back about mixing hot chocolate and coffee, and I did, and I was like, this is gonna be amazing. But I have like the $10 coffee maker at home from Walmart, and I hadn't used it for like 6 months.
Right.
And so then I was like, okay, I'm gonna make coffee for this beautiful hot chocolate recipe that Jimmy passed over to me, but through the secret digits. And I don't know how I could be so challenged, and I burnt the coffee on 2 separate occasions.
Oh yeah, you gotta start over. Yeah,
and it tasted so awful with the hot chocolate.
Yeah, you gotta start over. Gotta start over.
I was so excited to try it, and I'm like, this doesn't taste very good. I should call Jimmy and complain. But it was actually on my behalf that it was so bad.
I meant to fire this up the other night, and Merry Christmas, everybody. Should I put
Merry Christmas.
Okay, so I got this Baby Yoda hot chocolate coffee bomb, chocolate bomb. Have you done a chocolate bomb?
You know what? I have not yet.
Have you heard of the chocolate bombs?
I have heard of it.
Life-changing, man. Life-changing. And so this one is still here. I'm going to do, I meant to do this after the show the other night. And then last night I was going to do it after watching the new Matrix. And which I wanted to discuss a little bit today here on the show. Have you seen the new Matrix?
I have not seen it. I've been wanting to see it. I did not like the third movie that much. I found it kind of like just like very grunge and disappointing for me. A lot of people liked it. I didn't. But I am looking forward to seeing the new one. And by the way, Dan, thank you so much for the super chat. It says Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Yeah. And everything in between.
Our little college student needs hot chocolate. So anybody that can kick down on the hot chocolate fund, That would be great. Should I wear? It's the Christmas show. Should I wear my Santa hat too?
Yes, you should. And where's your Christmas tree?
It's in my living room. So
And
I only have one, but it's portable. So thank you, Skyhawk.
it's for all the noodles, 20 cents each, right? Times 150. I get 150 little boxes, little squares of ramen. Thank you so much, Skyhawk. That's
Okay, hold on.
exactly what it's going to.
I'm listening. I have to. I have to.
Well, see, people are saying when it comes to the newest Matrix movie, they don't want the movie to be spoiled. So maybe
Oh
if you
no,
can,
no,
like,
no! We can't spoil. I would never spoil it. No, no, no. I those. Okay, which side do I need to pull up? This side. Okay. So
on opposite sides. Yeah, I like that.
there we go.
Gotta be.
And we both have the Tascam logo going on the top. That's
Oh yeah.
so it's a Tascam. This is cool. All right. All right. Okay. So now I can't hear myself.
I had to put my volume on extra loud.
Yeah, I'm realizing that now. This looks great. Merry Christmas, everybody. Okay, so back to the Matrix. I did a little review on it today. No spoilers from me. I went into it spoiler free. I didn't want to read anything. I just wanted to see the movie. So I suggest that everybody does the same thing. Just go and check it out. The only comment that I have is that the writers, okay, so the two main writers for it took some big chances on this, and I really enjoyed that part of it. In that this was not formulaic. It came at surprise, and I remember at the beginning, the first 15 minutes of the movie, I was like, what the heck? I'm not really digging this, right? And then they, and I was like, okay, hold it now. And then they had my attention. And now I totally get the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie. Wow. And I mean, my mind was blown. And so everybody that watches this is definitely going to go through this very same experience. Like, what? But, and then it's like, okay, it's either genius or stupid, right? There's no
in between.
No, not here. And I was so hard on the stupid side. I was like, man. And then, okay. And so, and that's all I'm going to say. That's it. There's no spoilers here. Just experience the first 15 minutes like I did, which is what? Okay. Go through that. And then, wow. Okay. Pretty good ending. And, which I didn't expect either. The only two things that I'm complaining about, which are two specific scenes in the movie. I'm not going to get into it, so it doesn't matter. No spoilers. I didn't dig that, and so I'm going to go back and watch it again, and because there's some really deep stuff going on, and just like the first Matrix movie, you go back, you watch it again, and you're like, oh, now I get it. So that's definitely in play here. So. There you go, and I'm digging that. I pay for HBO Max, but having this released on HBO Max is pretty cool. Like they did with Dune, right?
That was a good movie.
Yeah,
I mean, I did not like the ending because you're like, and it's just the beginning. And I'm thinking that's BS. Okay, I want to watch the whole thing.
Well, they only did a third.
That's only a section of it.
Yeah, they only did a third of the first movie, third of the book, and so it's now. I thought that there was going to be a part 1, part 2, part 3, but now they're saying it's just going to be a part 2. I think they can pull it off. I'm
gonna hope for the best. Because that was a great movie. Matrix sounds amazing. Now we have Christmas special going on today. Curious George, thank you so much for the super sticker. It says, "Merry Christmas, Cristina." Thank you. I know you don't sound like that, but I wanted to do that. But
yeah, right on.
So
this is the time of the year. Can I give How do I give? How do I donate?
I don't know how you do it on your side, but let's we
Okay.
have a lot of
No,
Christmas
don't.
kinds of
You
stories.
no. You want to. No, I'm going to figure out. Okay. Oh, there's a dollar sign here. So I do this. So I go super chat. And
Love my new accent.
how
Pick it
much?
up from me.
How much should I donate to Christina? Let's go. Let's go 50.
Well, as you know, YouTube keeps 30%. So it's
Oh,
like,
do they really?
yeah,
Wow.
I
Okay.
know. Which is like, wow. Anyways, but let's do today's show. We got a lot to cover today. I'm really excited, even though it was a little bit more difficult to find encounters or incidents that happened in December. There are still quite a few, and honestly, some that are rather famous. And we'll be covering a few of those today. John aside, just because of the matching hats. Thank you. It wasn't planned. I think he was copying my good looks. So thank you. So the first story I want to talk about that kind of happened because we're going to go in chronological order.
Okay.
From
Hold on. I'm in the middle of this donation. I got to be right back.
okay, well, I will carry it on. So
You're doing
the
good.
so the first story, Skyhawk, thank you. We will be covering Rendlesham Forest. It's in there. It's going to be a little bit later on, but it says the Rendlesham Forest incidents, Britain's Roswell and Cash Landrum, both in December 1980, within 3 days of each other. Coincidence? I think not. We'll be covering those two stories today. And I love that meme. Coincidence? I think not. The one from The Incredibles. Really fantastic. So today, the first one that we're covering is the Kecksburg UFO from December 9th, 1965. Now, Jimmy and I briefly talked about this exact story during Crash Retrievals Week, I think about like a month or so ago by now. But for those that have not seen that episode, we will be going over that exact incident again today. So at 4:47 p.m. near a small town of Kecksburg, thousands of people saw the object streaking across the sky, which left a vapor trail that was visible for more than 20 minutes. Many people thought it was an aircraft on fire, which is, a rather logical thing to think about. But at around 6:30 p.m., a woman called the local radio station stating that an object or fireball had crashed into the woods near her home. So she and her two sons saw smoke rising from the trees and a bright object off to one side. Soon after this crash happened, state police and firemen soon arrived, which again is a rather normal thing with anything that crashes, like meteorites or aircrafts. It doesn't really matter. If there's a fire, it's going to devastate the entire forest or anywhere that it's crashing into. So far, it all makes sense. Sonic Gravity, thank you. It says, Merry Christmas. Did your guest just bail to give you a super chat? Where do you find guests like that? We all love Jimmy from Fade to Black. He is such a fun guy to be with. So later on, after this woman had called in, the person that she called in to was John Murphy, who is the news director of the local radio station called WHJB in 1965. And while people were kind of looking into this incident, before we get into John Murphy, when after it had crashed, or for those that were in close proximity to it, they believed it looked kind of like an acorn. They believed that it was about the same size of an acorn, about the size of a Volkswagen Bug. And they were like, oh, this probably has to be some kind of alien craft. I mean, what's going on? But there were a lot of scientists that went ahead and debunked it, stating that no, it happened to be a meteorite. But we're going to get into that a little bit further in. So, in the book that I read called UFOs for the 21st Century Mind by Richard Dolan, written in 2004, he goes into depth on this exact story. And in that's why I'm going to bring up John Murphy. So he found an investigator for the state of Pennsylvania, and the two decided to enter the woods where they saw this thing crash. At that point, he learned that no civilians are allowed into that specific area, as the entire area had been closed off from the public. So, still, Murphy had taken pictures and recordings and recorded audio as well while on the scene, and decided he would prepare a video documentary about that exact event. So, John Murphy's story in this adventure created a lot of special interest to everyone that was in on the story. Fade to Black Radio, thank you so much. Thanks, Jimmy.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry
Christmas.
It's so funny. So I'm just going, I've never done that before, right? Click, 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 click. And then it asks for a security code on the back of this credit card, which I don't know which one it is. So I had to go find it. And there you go. So, okay. All right. I'm back. I heard all of that, though, by the way.
Good.
I heard all of that. Now, I just want you to go and get some hot chocolate.
Okay. I am. This is delicious. Thank you. With my secret ingredient recipe, 2 scoops of ice cream. Vanilla ice cream, preferably Bluebell. They have the best vanilla ice cream I have ever consumed in my life.
Yep.
So that's the one I put in my hot chocolate. Now, to continue with this story, and this is coming off of Richard Dolan's book, he states that, according to his wife, Murphy was convinced the object was not a meteorite, as so many people had stated. Following the crash, he became deeply interested in the case and wrote a news story about it called Object in the Woods. Just before the show was supposed to air on the radio, however, he was visited at the station by 2 men in black suits, identifying themselves as government officials. They went with him alone for 30 minutes, an event recalled by another WHJB employee, which is the radio station, by the name of Linda, who added that the men had confiscated some of Murphy's audio tapes and probably his photographs too, since they were never seen again. So after, Murphy aired a censored version of his documentary, which essentially told nothing of interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, running interference. Is there always a running theme where we're right at the edge of something like this, and then you go from something to nothing? Because, like that. Yeah. Where interference is run. And now, although I haven't experienced this personally, I certainly know personally quite a few people that have. I haven't had that happen yet, at least not directly. Right? I've had things happen on the edge where I was like, okay, all right, I need to back off. I need to back up. I need to think about this. But I've decided a long time ago, and I think that everybody should, if something like this happens to you personally, don't let it stop you. Don't let it scare you. Okay. All right. Let me say this. I love it when I say, let me say this. But let me say this. If you have a photograph, you take a picture, if you take some amazing video, like the real deal stuff, go public. Go public. There is nothing that the government can do. If you go public immediately and they do something, then you are a martyr, right? You've taken one for the team, but you're not going to prison. They're not going to fine you. They're not going to do anything, because therefore, if they do, it verifies your story. And that goes with all of those out there that have always stopped short. And I've said this about, Bob Lazar, right? Or whoever Hal put off, Kit Green, any of these, supposed, people in the know. Well, I got to protect my family. I got to protect my retirement. I've got to honor the NDA. That's all BS. Go for it. Go for it. Step forward, bring it out. Nothing's going to happen to you. Just like Gary McKinnon, and that probably one of the most famous whistleblower cases ever, which had the attention of Barack Obama and the Queen of England, and what he revealed. But you know what? He didn't hold back, and they threatened him with prison and this and that, and the United States, and so many government officials stepped in. Nothing happened to Gary. Nothing. They can't. They cannot do anything to him. So there you go. That's my thing. See, I just got the battery. See, how cool is that?
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, just letting you know.
There's another rather important figure in this story, and his name was Vince Lubbock, and he was someone that had gotten incredibly close to this UFO craft when he was thinking about that he wanted to touch it. However, right before that happened, he began having strange pains in his joints, and later on, when he was trying to leave the scene and enter back into his car, he said that he felt a strain in his back right behind when he was entering behind the steering wheel, or even climbing into the cab of his truck caused him great pain in both his legs and his knees. He felt as though he was running a low-grade temperature, and sores developed on the inside of his mouth. Doctors said that there was nothing wrong with him, but it wasn't until the 1990s, so a long time after the incident happened, that the doctors told him that he was suffering from some kind of effects of an overdose of gamma radiation. And this is not something that we covered last time when talking about the Kecksburg incident. And I feel like the more stories that we cover here and there, it seems that those that get rather close to a lot of these craft, I wouldn't say all of them, but a good amount of them, somehow they get these side effects, including intense levels of radiation or breaking out in sores or who knows what else. And maybe we'll be covering that a little bit later today with the Vicky Landrum incident, which I talked about last week, 2 weeks ago, which is another very similar account. And with the Kecksburg incident, I think one of the weirdest things about this story is that in 2003, Leslie Keene filed FOIA for Kecksburg, but right, because she wanted to get the information of what happened, what data was collected that the public can go ahead and look for, because allegedly there were eyewitness accounts of people seeing military officials, and those classified as being in spacesuits, carrying not only boxes of something that was inside, but also the acorn craft as well on a truck. So Leslie went ahead and filed FOIA, and NASA had stated that the two boxes that had all the fragments that were there in Kecksburg got lost in 1987.
Yeah, there is. This went to court. Let me tell you, there was hearings. There was a judge. There were witnesses, and Leslie took this as far as she could take it. And for NASA to say officially on the record, it's poof. It was like, wait, what? And there's a lot of transcripts and a lot of information that you can look up and follow on this case. Kecksburg, for me, it's one of the. By the way, this is a Christmas holiday UFO incident gift. Kecksburg. There's so much documentation there, and for people to creepy little book coming in.
Good to see you, Pete. Thank you so much. It says Merry Xmas, Christina and Jimmy, wishing you continued success in the new year. Right back at you. For those that do not know who Creepy Little Book is, check out his YouTube channel. I'm telling you, he covers some really fascinating topics. What are you still doing it every day, Pete? Or like Monday through Friday? That's a lot of days of the week, and he
Yeah,
kills
yeah.
it.
I get more email about Pete probably than anybody else about a guest on Fade to Black. Pete, you're doing good, man. You've got people's attention, and I'm getting tired of reading the emails. It's one of those I got to give in. All right. I'll bump Linda Moulton Howe, and let's get Pete on the show. So, but back to Kecksburg. Thank you for that, Pete. We're going to get you on the show. Is the witnesses from the sky to the crash to the crash site documented? This is a gift. It's documented. The shape of the craft, everybody saw it. The news was there, and all of the witness citizens that were there, and the police was the Air Force, the Army, everybody shows up. The shape of the craft, I think, is very well documented, and we keep going back to this acorn thing. Now, was it a Russian satellite? Possibly. Was it a satellite of ours? Possibly. Was it time travelers from the future? Possibly. Was it the German De Bell? There's been comments about that. Was it just an alien spacecraft altogether? We'll never find that out. But definitely, well, hopefully we'll find out. I shouldn't say we'll never find it out. But witnesses saw this craft on the ground get placed on a military flatbed and then towed out of town. And there were witnesses all through this case with the roadblocks, with the military in town, with the description of the flatbed, how they got the craft onto the flatbed. All of this is documented. Kecksburg was a definite, real incident during Christmas. And now I'm looking at the clock. In your show notes, I want to go back to this because it's pretty important. Some teens passed roadblocks and saw a military man open the acorn and saw something inside. And then the acorn closed. The military man said, hurry up. We don't have much time. But what does that mean? And this was Aliens in America by Bill Burns. Again, just well documented, this case.
It is, and with that section of the story is kind of more hidden, right? There have been quite a few documentaries, and I think Ben Henson covered that in one of his episodes. And don't quote me, I might be wrong, but in several documentaries that have been on television, they go ahead and they portray military officials attempting to open up this acorn craft to see what's inside. Now, there are multiple different stories of how the incident really went down, but the most famous one, the most common one, is where there's an actual being inside and it's closing the door so that these military officials cannot open it. Mm-hmm. And it's a rather strange one.
It is. It's a strange one. And Ron Strubble, 20 years old in 1965, was interviewed by the Men in Black, about 6 of them. He described the acorn craft to be about the size of a VW bug. While looking outside of his window from his house, he sees about 2 crate trucks and 4 military officials, 2 in moon suits, holding a huge box. The acorn craft was covered up with a tarp. This right here, this type of testimony, has been repeated over and over and over and over again with Kecksburg. And now let's. I will dismiss the meteorite. It's a meteor at that point. It's only a meteorite once it hits the ground. So while it's still in the air, let's call it a meteor. A meteor doesn't turn. It doesn't take, right? It doesn't take turns. It doesn't turn and then make a landing. which
Correct.
is what was described here. That this craft came in, slowed down, and did an approach. Something screwed up. Don't know. And it crashed in the woods. But a meteor, as far as I know, doesn't have intelligent control and doesn't make maneuvers in the air, which was witnessed all across the county. So, and that was repeated over and over again. And this is the other thing. This is what is so great about Kecksburg. Populated area. There's a nearby road at the crash site. Witnesses. If I would have seen this, I would have done the same thing. I would have jumped in my car or would have had it. And that's what they did. They were able to arrive exactly where it came down because they saw it. And it was slow enough for everybody to witness and get there before the police. The police arrived. Everything happened pretty quickly. But while everybody was there, some people were going down to the craft and looking at it. There are a description of writing on the outside. I've always find that pretty interesting. But then the military shows up and says, "Hey, everybody, back up." It was all. There was citizen witnesses all over the place. I love the Kecksburg case. It's been a lot of attempts at debunking over the years, and nobody's gotten anywhere with it. I still say it was a craft under intelligent control. I don't know whose it was, but definitely came in, slowed down, approached, and then crash landed. So there you go.
The next one that happened in December was the termination of Project Blue Book, December 17th, 1969.
Great date.
It is. And it says here on December 17th, 1969, the Secretary of the Air Force announced the termination of Project Blue Book, the Air Force program for the investigation of UFOs. And the Air Force website goes ahead and explains to why they terminated the project. So we can talk about that right here, right now. So on the Air Force website, see how he's smiling. So Project Blue Book ran from 1947 to 1969, where they were investigating UFO sightings, and a total of 12,618 sightings were reported to Project Blue Book, and 701 remained unidentified.
Mm-hmm.
But as everything was going on, all of these years were passing by, the Air Force went ahead and stated, I don't really think we need Project Blue Book anymore. We should just go ahead and terminate it. So the discussion to discontinue UFO investigations was based on an evaluation of a report prepared by the University of Colorado entitled Scientific Study of Unidentified Flying Objects. And they were evaluating everything that happened from 1940 to 1969, even though Project Blue Book was started in 1947. So as a result of these investigations, studies, and experiences gained from investigating UFO reports, the conclusions to terminate Project Blue Book were: no UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force was ever an indication of threat to our national security.
BS.
There was no evidence submitted to or discovered by the Air Force that sightings characterized as unidentified represented technological developments or principles beyond the range of modern scientific knowledge.
BS.
And there was no evidence indicating the sightings categorized as unidentified or extraterrestrial vehicles.
BS.
And that is all directly from the Air Force website. So you can go ahead and read that yourself, exactly what I read. So it makes you question. And there are a lot of people, including J. Allen Hynek at the time, who believed that there was more of another reason to why Project Blue Book was terminated, and not really for these reasons that we have just read here.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy, based off of the research you have done with Project Blue Book, and I've spoken to so many people, what, in your opinion, is a reason to why Project Blue Book was terminated?
Rudolph The red-nosed reindeer. I am convinced it is, and we're going to come back to Rudolph in just a second. And I went and loosened this up like a doofus, and now I can't get it. Now it's anyway. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm such a perfectionist. The deal with Project Blue Book is this, and I love this is the best part. Everybody, listen to my words very carefully because I'm not going to play around here. Everything that was officially stated in the month of December, Christmas of 1969, goes in direct contrast with everything that is stated today. Because everything that is stated today, the UAPTF, the statements out of the Department of Defense, and of course, all of the contact that we have made lately, is the exact opposite of all of the official positions that the government and the Air Force took in 1969. A direct contrast. Because now, today, one of the, there is no categories as unidentified represented technological developments or principles beyond the range of modern scientific knowledge. Wait a minute. They're saying today, everything that's happening right now, man, is beyond our technology. We need to study this. We don't know what's going on. It's the exact opposite of what they said. There was no evidence indicating that sightings categorized as unidentified were extraterrestrial vehicles. Let's go back to the report from June 25th, 2021, where it stated, it ain't us, it ain't anybody on planet Earth, therefore, it's something else. It's extraterrestrial. It's the exact opposite. We don't have any more interest in this, therefore we are closing Project Blue Book. As it turns out, the Pentagon has been very interested in this and has always had an ongoing program. It's every point that they made in 1969 is the opposite today. And it's not stated enough, not only by other researchers, but the UFO community, because too much time has gone down, right? We've kind of forgotten the government and the Air Force's Department of Defense official position in 1969. It's okay. It's a long time ago. I will help you out, and so will Cristina, by bringing up these points again. Look at what they've stated, and then look at the official position from the Senate, Congress, Capitol Hill, Department of Defense on down, their position today on this subject, which is the exact opposite of what they said then. Now, either they were lying then or they're lying now. Both can't be true. And that's it.
Can't be true. That's very right. It's either one or the other. It's either one or the other. James Coop, thank you so much for the super sticker. Woo, thank you.
Yeah, right
now, another story I want to cover before we go into a break in the next 2 minutes or so is the Kaikoura lights in 1978. Am I saying it right?
Close enough. I say Kaikoura, but yeah.
Kaikoura. All right. So, and the information I'm about to read to you is coming from the book Evidence of Extraterrestrials. Over 40 cases prove aliens have visited Earth. And this was written in 2021 by Warren Agnes. Sourced. So while this title sounds rather interesting and with a lot of claims, this book in particular has a lot of sources in the footnotes for each chapter that go ahead and back up the information that is provided in this book with everything. So I just want to make that clear. So this sighting is a name given by the New Zealand media to a series of UFO sightings that occurred in December of 1978 over the skies above the Kaikoura mountain range in the northeast of New Zealand's South Island. The Journal of Scientific Exploration parapsychologist John Beloff wrote the following about the sighting, and it says, The New Zealand UFO sighting of the 21st of December 1978 are unique among civilian UFO reports because there is a large amount of documentary evidence, which includes the recollection of 7 witnesses, 2 tape recordings made from the sighting, the detection of some unusual ground and airplane targets, and a 16 millimeter color movie. So it seems like, just based off of this, I would say, credible person, that he believes, based off of the evidence that has been provided by those that have tape recordings, that have filmed it, and by 7 witnesses, that that's enough evidence to go ahead and prove maybe this thing really did happen. Bob, thank you so much for the super sticker. Happy holidays, my friend. So in December 21st of 1978, there were numerous reports made by locals who described seeing strange lights in the sky. The lights were seen from the South Island, like I had mentioned, and one of the reports was made by employees of Safe Air Airlines. The individuals were on board an Armstrong Argosy aircraft when out of nowhere, 5 white flickering lights surrounded their plane. Surrounded it? That's pretty crazy.
It is. It's a great case.
It
And
is.
summer solstice too, as well.
Oh, yeah. But before we continue, we'll be right back after this break.
Hi, I'm Micah Hanks, and let me tell you something. I support Cristina Gomez as a Patreon subscriber, and here's why you should too. She brings all of her unique insights to a whole new generation, and all while she's also going through college. Listen, support Cristina, become a Patreon subscriber today. You won't regret it.
Hey there, it's Cristina. Did you know you can get access to an exclusive extra segment of additional questions and answers with all of my guests, as well as behind-the-scene videos and photos? Ever wonder how I turn my small college dorm apartment into a studio where I can shoot new videos or set up lighting and backdrops for my show, or what camera I use? Yep, that video is there too, where I explain as I go along and also give the story of how I learned to do special video effects and editing. You can get access to all of that and much more by joining my Patreon Supporters Club. You'll be helping by supporting this channel, my research, and production costs, as well as investing in new shows coming soon. Starting from as little as $5 a month, there are several tiers you can choose from that suit your budget, and each tier carries extra perks and benefits. Join my Patreon club and become a supporter today.
I'm just enjoying my hot chocolate. That's not hot chocolate in that alien mug. It's ramen noodles. Wow. Tasty.
Now you guys know what I do on my breaks. That 1
Wow.
minute break.
Wow. That's impressive.
So there were some explanations to what these people were seeing in the sky in New Zealand. The
I
first
will kick down a T-shirt to anybody that gets a screen grab of that noodle munch right now. Free T-shirt.
It's so good. This is bomb. This is really great.
Oh, that wasn't your alien mug. That's an actual ramen bowl.
Well, because
Oh,
my
there's
alien mug has hot chocolate in it, and then this bowl has my noodles.
Look at that. Wow.
So do you want to tell the possible explanations to the sighting while I enjoy my noodles?
Yeah, you enjoy those noodles. The possible explanations are all the classic ones too, as well. And the first one that I love is the Royal New Zealand Air Force said, "Hey, it was the planet Venus." And this is the thing. The planet Venus wasn't even in the sky at that time. That's the first thing. Second, it surrounded the plane. So I guess that there were multiple planet Venuses that night that entered our atmosphere and surrounded the plane. Very interesting explanation. The next one was and we always go through this. That, and we were just talking about meteorites and meteors and things so it must have been meteorites and that came down and surrounded the plane, and unburnt meteorites, which is another explanation that was put forward. But wait a minute, the lights were burning for minutes, and this is multiple explanations here. And then the third explanation by the Royal New Zealand Air Force, by the way. So now they're giving another theoretical thing that it was lights were a reflection of a squid hunting fleet. Now that's a bit of a reach. That's a bit of a reach. First off, that's sea level. I don't know about flying squid and hunting flying squid and surrounding an Argosy aircraft. So what is it? Which is it? Right? Or do we just go back to the photographic evidence, the eyewitness testimony that these were lights that were surrounding this aircraft on December 21st? And let's leave it at that. Let's try to figure out what the lights were, but trying to go with a cosmic explanation of meteors, meteorites, burnt meteorites, unburnt meteorites, multiple meteorites. Either it's that, or it's lights on the ground, or it's the planet Venus, or it stay in one direction, or let's do an investigation as to what this was instead of trying to just explain it away with simplicity.
And in some respects, it's a lot easier to go ahead and explain potential things versus saying, you know what, it very well could have been aliens. It's a lot harder to explain that if at this time there was just not a lot of public scientific explanation for these types of things. And that's kind of what I find so intriguing about a lot of these UFO stories, especially this one in particular, where you're having the Royal Air Force give two explanations that are both different.
I just love the Santa. I can't get past the Santa hat when explaining this crazy town stuff. And see, here's the deal, though. In my Santa hat, is that today you can go and investigate. If you have something that is suggested, you can jump on the internet and you can look at certain things, and you can go and find stuff out pretty dang quickly for modern stuff. But if you need to jump back in time, you can also do that too. But back when you're dealing with something that is that long ago, the government was so used to, I'm saying government, but that includes law enforcement, schools, even local news. They could tell you anything, and you had to believe it because there was, what are you going to do? Well, how are you going to research something? You'd have to go down to the library. What? How do you get local newspapers? How do you jump? You don't have a way to do things. Today we do. And one of the explanations for this, the squid boats, well, as it turns out, there were no squid boats or squid fleets in the area. But back then, they could just say that, oh, okay, yeah, squid boats. Well, yeah, how are you going to go and check out squid boats? Any boats. And they specifically said squid. They didn't say tuna, right? You know what I mean? It could have been tuna boats, could have been shrimp boats. What about lobster? And in this case, it's squid boats, and there were none. Now back then, if we had access to all of this, you can call BS on the stuff like the planet Venus. So you would have to go crack open an astronomy book and go and look at the month and let's see the year. Where was Venus? You can do all of that today. It's all automated. You can find out what's in the night sky exactly at that moment in time. On any location on the Earth, on the planet. Back then, when they give these official explanations, there wasn't a way to go and check, and nobody did. You didn't have the resources, and even if you had the resources, you had to have the time. Today, we can do it instantly.
Yeah, it seems like they were playing more on people's ignorance than anything else. The next story is the Betty Cash and Vicky Landrum.
No. I'm calling. I'm going to play a chip. I'm going to play a chip.
Okay, are you playing poker?
Yeah, I'm playing poker.
I'm pretty good.
I want to. Oh, really? I want to jump ahead to Rendlesham because we haven't talked about. We talked about Cash Lantern now the last 2 weeks. One of the great cases out there for sure. Thank you, Spaghetti. And
Thank you.
thank you so much, Spaghetti. Spaghetti is an official troublemaker, and he's just trying to buy himself out of causing trouble in the future. He's hedging his bets. I'm going public. I'm taking a public stance on Spaghetti. Okay, so
Thank you, Spaghetti.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And can I say something? I am in the middle of a get the tea cleanse. Okay, and double dosage, heavy thing for the last 24 hours, going to continue through to tomorrow. And so I haven't been eating, which is one of the reasons why I'm on edge right now, Spaghetti. I apologize. I'm just a little edged out. But I was thinking, what do I do? And I was thinking about Spaghetti, and I can't. And Spaghetti comes in and just reminds me of my dilemma that I'm in the middle of. And I was going to do this earlier today, and I was going to promise, like, I can't. I've got to stick to it. I'm going to stick to it.
You got this. Yesterday I made the most beautiful, the most gorgeous pasta Alfredo, and I've never made it homemade before, and I'm officially now never going back to a can or like Olive Garden's Alfredo pasta, because the one I made, man, ooh, wow like I dreamt about it when I was sleeping. When I didn't have it in my bowl, I dreamt about it, and I'm like, wow, I need some more. But let's
let's get to Rendlesham now. When we are talking about a Christmas holiday UFO incident, then we have the Mac Daddy of UFO incidents, in Rendlesham, and going down during the office Christmas party. Let's have it go down during the office Christmas party. Let's just do it like that. And wow. And I'm going to hand this off to you, Cristina, because you're going to go through the black and white for everybody and just lay it out. But it just an incredible 3 days all the way through the base. This is the deal. I'm a military brat. And during Christmas, and certainly this is without exception, during Christmas, you have lots of military personnel going out on leave, flying home, hanging out, and they run with the skeleton crew of guards and things on the base, and you're ready for anything if anything goes down. But the base, tends to slow down a little bit. And you do have various parties and things that happen. Well, that's what was going down during this. And now I'll hand it off to you. One of the interesting things for me is that when you have so many that are on leave, that are on vacation during this time of year, what a perfect time for an incident like this to happen. Because if it would have been on any other day, when the base is fully staffed, it might have been a whole different reaction, in my opinion. Okay, so what happened in Rendlesham, December of 1980?
Well, that's a really interesting point that you made. It happened the day after Christmas, and you're right, because there weren't a lot of people there working. It could have had a totally different reaction if it was on any other day that wasn't probably one of the biggest holidays. Right. Okay. Before I continue, Jason Brown made a comment, and it said, been a pilot for 37 years. I've never mistaken Venus for a UFO flying around my aircraft. There is a recognizable difference.
Yeah, you think? Thank you for that, Jason. I mean, there's a recognizable difference to anybody with a brain. It's a planet, it's a star, it's up there. We know what's happening, and we've been seeing it there for tens of thousands of years. We know what it is. No trained pilots, nobody with intelligence or anything else is going to mistake Venus for a UFO. It's that simple. The other day, and Jason, thank you for that. I talked about this on Fade to Black. Cristina, I didn't tell you about this. I will tell the audience right now. Sunday, I had some friends over, and specifically Brad and Michelle Harris and Nurse Nancy. Everybody knows those three, OG Fadernauts and close friends. And so we're in my backyard, and it's about 1 o'clock, and just hanging out, listening to music, and I think we just ate. And we're in the backyard, and lots of airplanes were flying around, and I've got lots of sets of binoculars, and we're looking at this. And Brad goes, "What's that?" And I look up, and I see a plane flying away from me, and I see the contrail coming off. I said, "What, that?" And he goes, "No, look to the left of the contrail." And I did, and there was an object, little white speck, tiny too, high. And so small, so I get and then it went away. I lost it. It reappeared. I found it again, and we're freaking out. I get the binoculars on it, right? And it looked like, this is to me, like maybe a comet. There was like from the top. So it's tiny though. Okay, you got to understand. So in my binoculars, it goes from minuscule to uber tiny. It's in the binocular, but I could see like a little coming off of the top of it, little, but it's not really moving. And then it kind of went away again. Then it came back, and we're all seeing it. So now, and we're watching it now for about 5 minutes. It's not moving. I get out my cell phone. I'm ready to videotape, and then we lost it. Couldn't find it, and it never came back. There's another part to the story. Now, we saw something. I remember going in the house, and I passed a mirror, and I looked in the mirror, and I go, "That was something." I said that to myself. So if I say that to myself, right, it was crazy. So the next day, I am on Twitter, and somebody tags me with something, and I don't really read Twitter, but this happened to catch my eye, and it said, "Jimmy, here in Las Vegas yesterday at about 1:40, we saw a bright object in the sky heading east to west towards Los Angeles. Did you see anything?" We did, and that's when we saw this object in the sky. So they saw it in Las Vegas. Now, this was Sunday, between 1:15 and 1:30 Pacific time. If anybody else saw anything in the sky, now I'm going to say, here's 12 noon. It was like heading to the east, maybe 10 degrees off, but straight up. It was like right here at a slight angle, almost straight up, but not quite. And we watched it for 5, maybe 10 minutes, and it kept going away and then coming back, going. It was high too, high, crazy. Just had the sighting, but you know what? It wasn't.
What?
Venus. I can tell you right now, it wasn't Venus. So there you go. There was a little off the top. Could it have been a comet? Could it have been space debris entering? Possibly something burning. But it didn't fall to the ground. Stayed up there. Yeah, crazy. Okay, where were we? Oh, Rendlesham.
Well,
Sorry.
first I want to say thank you so much to NeuroStream. Thank you for the super sticker.
Thank you.
So,
Neuro.
yes, we are talking about Rendlesham. You know what? I want you to tell me the black and white story. Like, what happened?
Well, okay. See, as everybody knows, over the years, I have interviewed everybody from Rendlesham, and either on the air or off. Okay. And that goes with Charles Halt, Colonel Halt, the deputy base commander, on down. So everybody involved, I have either interviewed live on the air or spoken to privately. Okay. And it's man, Skyhawk trying to buy himself out of trouble. They need a Venus explanation at Rendlesham. They need a lighthouse. Also, Jiminy.
Jiminy Christmas.
My real name is Steve Reigstag. I used it per your request. Oh, isn't that special? Yeah. All right, Steve. Now, let's get back to this for a second. What I find interesting, I got involved in Rendlesham as the case was starting to flood the internet, the earliest versions of the internet. And I'm talking about 1994. And I had a book about Rendlesham, Jenny Randall's book, which I had read. Now, I had always been fascinated by the case. But in the earliest days of the internet, what ended up happening was the Halt tapes, the audio tapes that he recorded got launched on the internet. And there was a way to download these files and listen to them. It took forever to do. But I know everybody. I know all the names. I know all the dates. I know everything that's going on. Later on in my broadcast career, I was able to go back and do all of these interviews because it involved a case that I was intimately knowledgeable about. I mean, what I thought was down to the last details. Certainly over the years, I have found out more and more and how much that I did know to fill in the blanks. But here's the deal. Out of everybody, certainly the principal players here, and I will go with Jim Peniston, John Burroughs, and Colonel Halt. So if just off of those three, and with the interviews that I have done, their stories don't match. Mm-hmm. It's really weird. Now, Burroughs and Peniston were standing next to each other when they went up over the berm, and there's the craft sitting there in the forest. And it's really bizarre to me, and then not so bizarre, that their recollections of everything are not the same. We know as a matter of record that Peniston, Bustinza, and John Burroughs were all three standing next to that craft. Bustinza was a little bit back. But Burroughs and Peniston fell to the ground and went up and took a peek over the hill. Everything that happened leading up to that, going to that, Peniston going up and touching the craft, nobody's got the same story, which is okay. Right now, it doesn't match everybody's story. You've got, I'll bring him up. I'll say it now. Larry Warren, and his version of what happened 3 days later, and seeing a craft out in a farmer's field, and his descriptions of that. You have that. Some people, most don't think that Larry was even there. Which is strange. But then Bustinza has said, yes, Larry, I did see Larry that night. Colonel Halt says, no, right? No, absolutely not. And he's the deputy base commander. Again, none of the stories are exactly the same. And you would think that they would be. There is gaps in the timeline here that sometimes are 2 and 3 hours from those that were there. What do we do with that? Well, we know if you have 5 or 10 people that witness a car accident, you're going to get 5 or 10 different stories. It's never going to be the same. I was in a car accident on the 405 freeway, involved like 15 cars. I was the second car in front. And this car, SUV, comes by me, just side swipes the front of my car. I go into the carpool lane and over to the and stop and get out. Behind me, the accident is going on. Later, the highway patrol took my statement then, and I left. And the next day, they reached back out to me. Can you get, and they said there was 22 cars involved in that car accident. Not one person gave us we don't have two identical stories. I said, look, all that happened in back of me. I can only tell you what I saw from the front. They were saying, yeah, but there was no silver SUV. Nobody else. I said, that's what started everything, was the silver SUV that sideswiped me. I just pulled over. The accident was going on. I have no idea. It's crazy, and nobody had the same story. So we go to Rendlesham, and from my own experiences, I would say with Rendlesham, it's okay not to have everybody accurate. But when Colonel Halt got the Christmas party interrupted, and somebody came up, and he's sitting there at his table at New Year's Christmas party, and they said, Colonel, they're back. Right? Now, remember, 2 nights before was the original set of sightings in the forest. So he's got to interrupt his dinner. They're back. Right? And he had to get out, go out, change, and then head out into the forest. And that's when he saw the blinking eye, the dripping metal, the thing moving through the woods. And all of this is at ground level. To make another explanation, I'll hand this back to you, Cristina, in just a second, that the explanation of the lighthouse, which was a couple of miles away on the coast, south, that everybody at Woodbridge Bentwaters knew this tower, and everybody there is used to the squadrons landing and taking off at Woodbridge, and the flight characteristics and how they did it, and what they, that's what they do. And all of the sudden, they are going to just lose all sense and sensibilities to where they live, where they work, where they patrol. That suddenly the lighthouse is a UFO and is throwing off everybody. They've got lighthouse, they've got jeeps, they've got personnel, they got security, they got guns, they got everything. That recorded. They are heading into the woods, looking at this light and this object in the woods, and suddenly they've just let their professionalism go, and they are now all convinced that a lighthouse is a UFO in the woods. No, something definitely landed in Rendlesham 2 nights, and there was a middle third night where there was action too as well.
Well, 2 days after the incident, on December 28th, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt visited the clearing to investigate, to see what actually happened, if there's potentially any evidence. And his party found the spots where the craft had touched down, noting triangular imprints on the forest floor.
Yep.
And they checked for radiation, and they indeed did find an elevated levels of radiation present. If that's not proof, I'm not sure what is. But it wasn't until much later in 2010 did some new information arise and was available to the public. So this happened in 1980, but in 2010, Lieutenant Halt disclosed that the Air Force Base contained 25 bunkers full of lightweight, powerful nuclear bombs, ready in case of a Soviet invasion. So the Bentwaters Air Force Base housed more nuclear bombs than any other military installation in Europe. So on the day of the sighting, it was reported that the strange lights flew over the nuclear storage site, possibly indicating that the visitors were interested in the nuclear aerosol being stored at the base.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't aware of that information. I had no idea that Bentwaters also housed nuclear bombs.
So I spoke to, let's stop right there for a second, because I spoke to Halt about this a few times, and he was a deputy base commander, and officially, and this is from him, that there were no nuclear weapons stored on the base, that was going against the treaty and agreements between the United Kingdom and the United States. So there were to be no nuclear weapons stored in England, right? And so that's his official position, right? There were no nuclear weapons there. I think that these comments and some of the facts that have come out since then, that there were nuclear weapons there, but he has always maintained his position. Plus, also, he's got a retirement. He's retired, and he's not going to go and ruffle feathers at this point. But Halt did say this. I believe he said it on Fade to Black. He certainly said it to me. Chuck, I'm just sharing this information. It's been out there before, but he said, changed his story somewhat, and then said that the craft he witnessed the craft flying over him to the weapons storage bunkers, and were flashing a beam of light down onto the bunkers, and he saw that himself. This is the curious part. This is the strange part about that. The Halt memo, which is a pretty famous memo, and it clearly states a lot of things in it, does not state this. So why didn't Chuck back then put this in his memo that ended up surfacing and Freedom of Information Act? The real memo is certainly out there, how he documented everything. I don't know. I don't know why he didn't include it. It certainly would have backed up a lot of others' testimony here, and certainly would have opened up another part of investigation of what craft, who was flying over the base, shining beams of light. We don't know if it was beams of light to illuminate so they could see, or were they doing something else? Were they deactivating or nuclear weapons and dearming those warheads? I don't know. But he certainly witnessed this and is now pretty public about it. And then there's a whole nother element to this. I'll swing it back to you. But there's another element, which is it appears that civilian dressed investigators were flown in to Rendlesham immediately after this, and interrogated and debriefed everybody that was there. This has been stated to me from Charles Halt that these did occur. Jim Peniston has spoken about this with me, and so was John Burroughs. Now, there was some accusations that sodium pentothal and some drugs were used. Jim Peniston has said this. I don't think John Burroughs. Oh, here's the other part. Okay, John Burroughs doesn't remember any drugs being used on him during his investigation. So I'll hand it back to you about this strange UFO and lights witnessed by, Deputy Base Commander Colonel Charles Halt flying over the weapons storage area, shining a beam of light down at the doors.
And before we end this story, there's something else that's rather interesting. And shortly after the encounter at Rendlesham Forest, Burroughs started developing symptoms that resembled radiation exposure. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning of what would be years of fighting with authorities to acquire the treatment and financial aid Burroughs needed, because he was the one that got closest to the craft. In 2011, as part of his routine medical examinations, the doctors were surprised when they found that Burroughs had a heart murmur, and things took a stranger turn when the doctors were unable to access Burroughs' medical records. Each time, it was top secret. So each time they asked the Air Force for access, they were informed that his files were classified. And, medical records should almost never be classified, right? Because that could be a life or death situation. So doctors always need to have full medical records in order to treat him properly. So the fact that they were classified, it makes you have a lot of questions. What
Well,
really happened?
he had to get Senator John McCain involved, which he did. And McCain couldn't get access. His office couldn't get access. The VA couldn't get access. John had these medical issues and he needed treatment, but nobody had access to his medical records. Of some very strange things. The Condon report ended up coming out, speaking about health issues and UAPs, which is also in the current NDAA that was just passed by Congress last week. That if there are health issues that arise from UFO and UAP contact, that these individuals get the help that they need. Fortunately, John Burroughs ended up getting a settlement and getting the medical care. I'm not going to get into the details of any of that. That's private. But he ended up getting everything that he needed. But it was 40 years, 35 years after the initial incident, and he just would not give up. Now, before we run out of time, there's another very, very curious part about Rendlesham, and that is Jim Peniston said that when he touched the craft, he got a download. And now he walked around the perimeter of the craft, and saw hieroglyphics, some strange writing or symbols around the perimeter of the craft. He has, to the best of his memory, has drawn some of these symbols out. They're very interesting. But that's not the crazy part, which I think out of this entire incident, and there's so many details, again, this went down over 3 days, he says they were us, that this was a craft from the future. It was an ET. Now, and then he got the binary code download and he wrote all of that out. That's a whole show in of itself, and what that binary coded information says and reveals. But for John, and both him and Jim, I should say, both John and Jim did take regression therapy to recall a bunch of these events, and some of the stuff was revealed. But for Jim Peniston, he wrote the binary code and the symbols down in a notebook. And so that was set up and preserved. But the other part about the download of information that he got, and part of that was the ones and zeros, right? The binary stuff, was that they weren't ET, that this was us from the future coming back. And it has put a strange spin on a lot of things. And that includes Cristina, UAPs today. There's a lot of conversation that it just may be us from the future, that the Tic Tac may represent that. I don't know. But Jim Peniston and Rendlesham, this craft was seen and documented coming and going over a 3-day period in the forest of Rendlesham. No question about that. But was it something from our future? The other description of the craft, and then I'll hand it back to you. They're up in Washington. Dr. Jonathan Reed, one of the more famous Art Bell shows on Coast to Coast AM, I believe it's 1995, 1996, talked about his encounter in the woods up near Seattle, where his dog was killed, and he retrieves an alien body, took some amazing photographs and of this craft. And I've always thought that the description of Jonathan Reed and the craft in the woods there, and his photographs, you can go look at them online, resembles what Burroughs and Peniston saw that night when they were doing their investigation too as well. So a coincidence? I don't know. Was Jonathan Reed's encounter, was it us from the future? I don't know. But there are vast similarities on these two cases.
There has to be. With a lot of the cases that we've covered here on the show, but also from everyone doing their own separate research, you're going to see a lot of similarities in countless cases. Either have it be one thing or another. And the last case that I want to cover today before we end the show is the Ikley Moore UFO incident, December 1st, 1987. And this one happened to a former British police officer, because he had a very unsettling experience December 1st of 1987. And his name was Philip Spencer. And he lived in Ikley. Am I saying it right? Ikley? Ikley at that time, in a village in Yorkshire. So he was walking to his in-laws' house, right, at night. And while he was walking, he always carried his camera with him, hopefully to catch some cool photos of the scenery. But while he was walking, he saw something in his peripheral vision, and it kind of looked like it was about 10 feet away, and it looked kind of like a small green creature. So instinctively, he brought his camera up and tried to take a photo of what he didn't really understand what he saw. But the creature shuffled away, and it just left, right? So it turned out to him that he couldn't understand what he was seeing, and he was hoping that his camera did catch this greenish kind of creature. And it did. His camera did catch something that is rather unexplainable. Philip states it was about 4 feet 6 inches tall. It had large pointed ears, big black eyes, no nose, and a very small mouth. And its arms were very long with enormous hands. Its feet were cloven, and it was covered with rough-looking green skin. Based off of that description, what does that sound like to you, Jimmy?
Well, the Grinch that stole Christmas, thinking it's the Grinch, and it's Christmas, and this case has, you just scratched the surface, and we're almost out of time. And I have two more cases that I want to discuss with you, and we're out of time, everybody. So let me just.
Well, if you have a few extra minutes.
Well, for you, I always do, and it's Christmas, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. Is Mysteries with the History? Is this his case? It's got boarding of a craft. It's got medical examinations. All of the photographs.
Missing time.
The craft of missing time. This case has got all of these things going on with it. It's a fascinating case. It's just not, a police officer witnessing something with a camera, and did he or did he not? It's got everything else. The best part of this case, they popped in a videotape. They popped in why are you laughing?
I'm not.
They said, hey, you can't get this at your local Blockbusters, but we brought this all the way from Zeta Reticuli, and you've got to see it. And they pop it in, and they show them a movie. This case has got it all. And it was, they showed him a movie. I'm going off of memory here, folks. So, but the future of the planet, you've got to start taking care of things, or you're going to look like this. So part of your mission is to go out there, Mr. Spencer, and warn everybody that you could do this with your planet. So start taking care of it now. Yeah, his case has got everything.
It does. And from the book, World's Best True UFO Stories by Jenny Reynolds and Peter Hugh from 1994. They cover this case and they state something that you just mentioned about seeing a movie. And it was a warning of what would happen to our world if we did not curb pollution and control population growth. So that's what he was shown, and that's what he remembers and what he ended up telling people after he came back. Because when he had seen this creature that he couldn't explain, he attempted to take a picture of it. When he looks down at his clock, right, to go ahead and finish walking to his in-laws' house, 2 hours had passed by, and he had no memory of what happened in those 2 hours. To him, it just felt like from one instance to another. But in reality, after he looked down, he noticed that he lost time and he could not remember. So when he went under hypnosis, he remembered taking medical examinations. He was given a tour of the craft, and he was also shown a movie of what would happen if people continued doing what they're doing at this time in the 1980s. And it's a pretty interesting and somewhat intense story, but we've heard quite a few stories that carry a lot of these same similarities compared to others.
He should have had a chocolate bomb. That would have. You don't have to have regression therapy if you do a heavy dose of chocolate during the Christmas months. Okay, now before we run out of time,
yeah,
Santa. Now, if we discuss Santa. And you think about a sleigh with the reindeer dashing around the world at the speed of light, making sure that the children of the world get to experience the spirit of Christmas. UFO sightings? You ever think about that? You ever think about that? Is Santa a UFO?
Well, I mean,
is he extraterrestrial, or is he just us? Right? And are some of these cases that we're talking about here, right? Ilkley Moore, could it have been an elf? I'm just saying, could it have been an elf? Could it have been? We can't lose sight of that. And what about Rudolph? How many red orbs are seen in the month of December, right? How many red orbs in the sky? And you can't see, you're looking at the red orb, you're looking and you're squinty eyed and you're trying to focus on it. You're reaching for your camera. And the next thing, and you don't see the sleigh. You don't see everything else. You just see Rudolph with his nose so bright, guiding the sleigh through the cloud layer, right? Could that be? Is this something that if we revealed to the children of the world, right? Should we go with the UFO hypothesis to throw the kids off? You don't want them, right? You don't want them knowing the truth. You can't. You've got to. Is that Rudolph? No, that's a UFO. Oh, okay. All right. Now go to bed. Okay. All right. You sure it's not Rudolph? It's a UFO. And is that okay? Christina, I need your opinion.
I mean, I was a huge Santa Claus fan. Like I was a hardcore believer as a child until I'm too old to admit, I don't want to admit how old I was until I stopped believing in Santa when I found out the hard way. But if I was told as a child that he was a UFO or like an alien or an extraterrestrial or an interdimensional, I'd been like, that obviously makes sense. Well, he can travel the world with all of these gifts in like a tiny sleigh. That makes perfect sense. So you know what? If kids hear that story, or for those that are listening and want to tell their kids that Santa really is an extraterrestrial, I think that is awesome. I think it'll make them believe a lot longer than telling him it's just a regular guy that just is just jolly and lives in the North Pole just casually. I don't know. But when it comes to Santa Claus, when it comes to Rudolph, when it comes to Mrs. Claus, who, as we know, probably makes the best cookies ever. goals is in all of this. The why we're doing today's show is to talk about the holiday season, and when we're talking about Santa or talking about any of these figures that represent a holiday, that's just kind of what brings it to life. And if we didn't have these figures, then I don't think it would have the same magic as it does today.
Now, what about the baby Jesus? Now, if we let's talk about this for a second. There was a star, air quotes, that appears above Bethlehem and guides the three kings with their, let's not forget that I have my frankincense and
Myrrh
right here. Right here. I got packages of it. Look. How cool is that? I got my little frankincense burner, right? Sits in. Oh, man, it smells so good. That's crazy town, right? Okay, so what were they seeing in the sky? It just appeared. I find this part of the story an interesting one. And I know that so many, including myself, you just want to stick to the original story. Let's go with the three kings, gold, frankincense, and going through, and they're following the thing that leads them to the manger, and they go in, and there's Mary and Joseph hanging out with their kid, spontaneously combusted this baby, and this baby has appeared, the Immaculate Conception, and there's the baby. Okay, all right, December 25th. Okay, all right, we can go with that. All right, I'm fine. Or right? Or was how do you explain this? This bright star just appearing in the night sky on that night. We can talk about Orion's belt and the three kings, and that was in the sky, and there's and that's what everybody was. The three kings were Orion's belt, those three stars. There were no three kings that were coming through. That okay, all right, but that star just appeared. Now, could that star have been a comet? Talked about comets earlier, right? It would have been there for months. It wouldn't have been there for just one night, 2 nights, or what have you. Or was it something else? Did something else appear that night that got inserted into the story and the biblical side and through to today? How and when we celebrate Christmas? I don't know. But that Star of Bethlehem is a curious one for me, Cristina.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. It's a really fun way to think about one of the oldest stories, right? At least when it comes to present day. It's fascinating to hear all these different possibilities of what it could be. Jimmy, this is all the time we have for today's show. I want to say thank you so much for joining me here for the Christmas special. It is always a pleasure to have you on. And I want to say thank you so much to Bob Thorson for sending a PayPal gift. Thank you so much. That's going to probably go to socks and ramen.
Wow, you can do that too as well? I can PayPal. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't see that. And Marty just comes in as I say, happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Marty decides to cross the line. Okay, maybe Jesus was an ET hybrid. Phew. I'm just reading his post. Cristina, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve, everybody, and for you tonight to be spending your time here with us is very, very special. So thank you for all of that and everybody that helped Cristina with her ramen fund. Much appreciated. And there you go. I just want to say it one last time. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Thank you, Cristina. You're the absolute very best. Everybody go be kind, be nice, have a great Christmas weekend, and I'll see all of you on Monday.
Bye, Jimmy. All righty, everyone. That is it for today's show. I want to say, like what he had said, first of all, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and everything in between. Thank you so much for joining in on the show live, for all the super chats, super stickers, and just your support altogether. Please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to share and subscribe with those that have the same interests as we do. For next Mysteries with a History, it's going to be on Wednesday instead of Thursday because it's coming up towards the new year. And the show for Tuesday for KUNX is still happening on Tuesday, so keep an eye out for that. That is it for today. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies.